Ah, what's happening, everybody? It's your boy. Yes, sir. We back again. We back, baby. We back, baby. We back. What's good, everybody? How's everybody doing? For those that are logging in for the first time, this is Let's Talk with Stanley Doucette. I am your host. And once again, we're going to have another remarkable, outstanding, and phenomenal show. We're going to be continuing on what we talked about, I think it was last week, the week before, whatever it was, about men cry too. Black men cry as well. But there are some things inside of us crying as black men that a lot of people just don't understand. So I'm just trying to share with you guys some of the things that we really, really go through. And hopefully we can continue to build the community around us, around our city, states, country, and so on. So that's where we are. I want to shout out everybody that's logging in for the very first time. I mean, people that are logging in and listening to us for the first time. Yes, I know it's a Monday, it's at 2 p.m., but I just want to make sure that everybody have an opportunity to be recognized. I don't care if you're in Australia, I don't care if you're in New Zealand, I don't care if you're in United Kingdom, I don't care if you're in Brazil, I don't care if you're in North America. I just want to share love with everybody. One of the things that I want to dig into when I'm doing this about Black Men Cry as well is to give another perspective to so many people that may not understand the plight of a Black male. So I'm just going to share four simple things today about, why Black men cry. I got my little notes. So if y'all see me looking off to the side, it's just me looking at my notes. But just real quick, and for those that have not joined us or followed us, please like, subscribe, share, join us. Go to our Facebook channel, our YouTube channel. I really want to grow our YouTube channel. Y'all see some of these crazy faces I make. Instagram, say hi to Instagram and all of our Instagram followers, as well as LinkedIn. So I want to just share that with everybody and just kind of get that out the way. But let's go to work. And I'm not going to be long, but I just want to give people an understanding about, just Black men cry. There's a lot of reasons why we cry. But let me give kind of, I know we talked about it a little bit before, but let me just give a kind of, how do I say it? Just kind of break the ice, right? This is not racial. This is not racism. But what I'm going to share is from a Black man perspective and what a lot of people may not consider what Black men go through. Um, First, let's talk about the social pressure. The social pressure in and of itself. Um, Social pressure, a lot of times they're always saying that they want Black men to suppress their emotions and appear to be strong and also unemotional. It just overall. Um, Media images come out all kind of ways, just social perspectives. But here's one of the things that I was listening to something and I heard the old John Thompson say. He said, "Man, I'm tired." And this is the old Georgetown Hoya basketball coach, the dad, not the son, the dad. And he was like, "Man, I'm tired." And people were trying to understand, what do you mean by tired? He was like, "I'm tired because I have to be so perfect. I'm tired." A lot of his counterparts in basketball may have not had a great season with that particular university or seasons with that particular university. However, he felt, and a lot of other Black coaches at the time, I think it was only two people that was sitting on that panel. And he was like, "I'm just tired of the double standard that seems to plague that coaching um, industry," right? It was things he had to be perfect on, and some of his other colleagues did not have to be perfect on. And let me just share this. When you look at the society, um, Black men go home and have pressure outside. And we talked about this, but there's a lot of pressure outside in the industries of what they're in. The social pressure sometimes is enormous, right? So for everybody that's not a black male, you have to remember, for whatever reason, this was placed on the black man's back. Whether you go back to slavery, whether you go back to Jim Crow, whether you go back to segregation, for whatever reason, the black man was always dubbed a threat, and not a threat in a good way, like you shoot the jumper or you something. No, 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 no. It was always dubbed a threat. I want you to think about this. As a black man myself, this is the social pressure that we talk about that a lot of people don't really want to discuss. And I want to talk specifically to my friends that are white. A lot of times you guys think of you guys subconsciously as the superior race. That's not true. Let me just put it out there and share. That's not true. There's no superior race. God created all of us equal. Black men, white men. Black women, white women. Asian women, Asian men. All of us have been created equal, right? Some may have a darker skin color than others, but it does not make us less than according to. But socially and subconscious, it is, right? I'm listen. If you don't want to listen to this podcast, this may make you uncomfortable, good, because I'm probably talking to you. Let me share something what I learned, and it was actually taught in the police department. I want you guys to hear this clearly. The most watched individual in the community is a black man, black male, the most watched. Probably, not probably, and the one or the individual that is the worst to confront from a police standpoint is a white female. Now, this is not me saying this. This is what I learned in the police academy. So I want you guys to understand, it's not just me, but I'm just sharing from a social standpoint how we are looked at as black men. We are a threat. We walking down the street, we are a threat. Let me give you guys a story. We're gonna keep it a whole 100 today. So I think I shared this last time, but I remember my dad and I, we were in a sporting store, right? And we are just walking down the aisles, doing our thing, so on and so forth. And the security guard started to follow us. Now, mind you, we didn't have a hood over our head, nothing covering our face. It just was regular jeans and a shirt. And we're in there looking to actually purchase something. But for whatever reason, because we were black, I have no idea why, the security guard started to follow us through the store. Now, remember, this was my dad, a black man, and me, I was a young kid. So it was a black man with a young kid. Now, but for whatever reason, in the security guard's mind, we were a threat, right? And followed us through the aisles until my dad literally confronted him, asking him, why is he following us? And of course, one thing led to another. It was an argument and so on and so forth about why somebody's following us, and we could go on and on and on about that story. But here's the thing. My dad was not a threat. As a matter of fact, my dad, I got my air quotes up when I say this, had a great job. He was working at an oil refinery. He had money in his pocket. He also had credit cards. So it was not that he didn't have the money to pay for anything, but for whatever reason in this guy's mind, we were a threat. Now, how do you become a threat when you just walk through the door? You didn't yell, you wasn't screaming, we wasn't doing nothing. It was just my dad and I walking in the store. How do you become a threat? Well, because you were black. We have to realize as a society, and we have to destroy those things and those images that previous generations have put out about a black man, that we are a threat to society. Let me share something with you guys, and we're going to keep it all the way a buck, right? One of the most um, what would I call it? One of the most patrolled areas was always in the black community when I was a police officer. It was always that. We were the most patrolled. I must admit. I'm telling you from the inside, we were the most patrolled. We had some patrols going through some of the other neighborhoods and predominantly white, predominantly Asian, predominantly Hispanic. Yes, but that black community was probably the most. And you can go through story to story. Now, people will say, well, because certain things happen in the black community, we can give all of those things. But why is it that it was only or it was completely lopsided? If you had to put it on a percentage, it may have been 85% patrol and 15% in other areas. Why is that such a dramatic thing? So we have all of those things. It's not about the police department. All I'm just sharing some of the social pressures that black men have. If you walk into a store, you automatically become a suspect to some people. Why? We didn't even do anything, right? If you are, and I shared this story, I think on a previous podcast, you are in a car and a police officer pull up behind you. Black men have a internal fear that something can happen. Now, I asked some of my white friends, Hispanic friends, gay friends, and so on. They didn't have that particular uh, threat inside of them that they, I should say, they feeling a threat. But every black man know what I'm talking about. When you kind of grip that steering wheel a little bit harder, when the police come behind you, even when you're driving under the speed limit, you never know what's going to happen. And we can give all kind of cases and cases about, bad things happen. We get all of that. But I also hear some people say, yeah, but other black men have been pulled over and they got a ticket or they, was let go with a warning and all of those. We get all of that. We understand all of that. Praise, great. But you don't understand the plight of that black man from what's internal because see, the social pressures are already told that you are a threat. Let me give you another way of looking at it. How many of my white friends, my Asian friends that are out there have been given the talk, right? The talk. See, y'all don't know about the talk. You have to be in that inside of that space about what the talk is. Don't make sudden movements. Don't talk back. Don't be smart. Make sure you're very respectful. Turn all of the lights on in the car. Make sure your hands are somewhere they can see them. Don't make any sudden moves because we don't want anybody to get happy and trigger finger when they pull you over. Our whole thing, it doesn't matter. Just get home to family. We'll figure everything else out after that. Regardless of, unless they have done something, but regardless of anything, be respectful. Don't be disrespectful, but be respectful and make sure you come home to the family. See, that's part of a talk that we'll converse. And a lot of young kids will be like, yeah, but I didn't do anything. It doesn't matter. I could give you side case after side case that things that didn't matter. And yet somebody that feels a superior race, that they're superior than you, begin to do things that in society that is just not true. So let's keep it all the way 100, ladies and gentlemen. That's not a great feeling in America when you're pulled over as a black man, especially on a dark road. Yeah, that's different. That don't feel good. Here's how I could back it up because I was also a police officer. I know what it's like to be pulled over as a police officer when I was a police officer and a police officer pulled me over. I know that feel. I know the grip, and I'm a police officer. So someone that is not understand it is something that we all have to understand and embrace. Let me give you another social pressure that is shared that they're not responsible, but it's, and from a social standpoint, that most men, black men, they have 100 children, they're uneducated, and they just want to create issues and problems. That's what society continues to push out there for the black man. That's not true. That is not true. I'm not going to go through all of the different things, but that's not true. They're some of the most educated individuals on the planet. They have to make do with things a lot less. They have to control their temper or their passion, because the passion that comes out from a black male, a lot of times it's like, oh, that's not passion. They're yelling, they're screaming, they're out of control, they're this, they're that. And then you have my same white counterpart or my Asian or my Hispanic counterpart do the same thing, and they'll say, oh, they're just passionate. You can see it on the actual basketball floor when certain things will happen, right? And they'll say certain things and frame it a certain way. But then my white player would do the same thing. Like, oh, he got great passion. Well, it didn't the same thing just happen with such and such player who just so happened to be black? So those are the social things that a lot of black men have to go through. And when you're talking about don't have that emotion to cry, or excuse me, I should say when black men cry, because sometimes it's so bottled up, even from the societal standpoint, it's like, oh, I got to get this out. I got to get this out, right? The media images and all of that stuff is always a just it's lack of respect and discipline on the media standpoint that just keep pulling us down. So we have that. Let's go to the next one. Historical trauma. Historical trauma. Black men have been forced to suppress their emotions due to historical problems. Public beatings during slavery. Violence against nonviolent protesters. Some of you guys remember in one of my previous podcasts, I talked about Willie Lynch, the slave owner, and some of the things that he developed for other slave owners to keep their Negroes in charge, in order and suppressed to their viciousness and all of those other things, right? But this is how you keep your Negroes in order. It was even stated in his letter that he wrote that, again, this is historic. You can go read it, go Google it. The Willie Lynch letter of how you would take the strongest of them all, the strongest black male, and you would put him there and you would beat him to an inch of his life, an inch of his life. And then they would literally go back and then maybe put two horses and tie him up to two horses and then set him ablaze and let the horses pull him apart to set fear into all of the other slaves or anybody that may be trying to come against the slave owners, to set a fear upon him. So the historical standpoint is, as even you move into 2024 and you go into 2025 and 26 and 27 and so on, that some of that historical fear has been passed on from generation to generation. Now, some people may say, well, we made tremendous strides. We made some strides publicly. We have, but internally, we have not made those strides, right? But historically, you look at that is just some of the beatings and the lynchings that people have been hung publicly. A lot of people talk about barbecue. Yeah, let's get to it for real. A lot of times you hear people don't say no any longer, I'm going to a barbecue. Do your historical homework on that. Why most people don't say barbecue? It used to be like, you're going barbecue somebody. I'm gonna just leave it there. But then there's also why you don't go to picnics. What's a picnic? Yeah, it was pick a nigga. That's what it was. It wasn't picnic like we go and we gonna have sandwiches and sit down under the tree and all that stuff. No, picnic actually literally meant pick a nigga. So today I'm just gonna give it to you raw. So when you're picking something, you doing a picnic. No longer it's a cookout. I ain't going to a barbecue. I'm going to a cookout. I'm gonna just leave that in. We going to a cookout. We gonna have fun at the cookout. We ain't going to no picnic. Ain't going to nobody picnic. We're going to a cookout, right? That's historical. Then you got the violence against the nonviolent protesters. How many of you guys remember John Lewis? Unfortunately, the great congressman from Georgia have now went on to glory, but he was beaten and had a plate in his head when they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And they beat him within an inch of his life. Sounds familiar? Historical trauma, right? Now you think about that. They didn't have any guns. They didn't have any bullets. They didn't have anything to beat somebody. None of those things was going on. Um, you know, and you think about that. It's um, it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. When you realize that John Lewis practically gave his life. You think about Martin Luther King literally gave his life for a non-violent protest, not a violent protest, but a non-violent protest. Now, when you talking about somebody doing a non-violent protest, and yet the resistance that was given from water hoses to dogs to people beating people with sticks, going to jail for no reason, just putting people in jail for literally no reason because all black people wanted at that time, and even specifically black males, just wanted to be treated equal. That's all, just to be treated equal. But now, when you have the historical data or data, depending on where you at, and you look at it, you think about Willie Lynch, and then now you're thinking about the nonviolent protesters and how they got beaten silly and all of those different things. And you try to wonder, well, why does black men cry? Well, you think about it. First, you got the social pressure. Now you got the historical trauma. You got her traumas that have been passed on from generations to generations to generations. If you have an opportunity out there listening to the podcast today, and you have an opportunity to talk to somebody that sat in at the bus counters or was on a black male I'm referring to that was sitting at the bus counter, or they were on the buses, to segregate the buses and all. Listen to the real stories, not all of the stuff that the political pundits are trying to do, but listen to those real stories and listen to the pain that a lot of black men had to go through. See, most people nowadays think, oh, well, President Obama became president, so all is forgiven from the past. No, all is not forgiven from the past. Not at all. It's not even close. It is not forgiven from the past, right? There are some things that have to be addressed, and you have to treat people in such in a much better way, especially black males. You have to do an incredible, a much better job, I'll say. We must do that. We must do that, because outside of that, again, we'll still have those historical traumas that continues to be passed on from generation to generation. I want you guys to think about this. You have all of the social stuff that's out there in terms of what a black man is and how some people look at black men, right? And let me pause here. For some people may be like, why you keep talking about black men? Because the day is about a black man. If you don't want to listen to why and how some of the things that black men go through, this is your day. Just turn the channel or go to another channel. But today everybody that's listening, get and receive the reasons of why some of the pain black men carry on a daily basis. So now you have the social pressures, you have historical trauma all balled up into one. Now, I'm not a psychologist or philosophist or any of those social sciences that are out there, but let me just ask this question to all of the people that's there. If you're just carrying just those two things, how much pressure do you think they have on them every single day? Every single day. You ride down the street, people looking at you. You get out your car, people looking at you. The police pull over you being looked at as a criminal. You're guilty until proven innocent. Why is that from a black male? Why? Now, some people gonna be like, oh, well, such you got some bad actors. Yep, they got bad actors, bad black males. They absolutely do. They're also bad white males. They're also bad Asian males. And I can go on and on and on. But we're not going to miss that point and change the subject. We have to understand why black men cry, because these things are painful. They are absolutely painful. Think about this. Let me just tell you guys a story. I came home one day and I was pulled over by a police officer, and I was treated so horrifically that I had to come home and take a seat and just a minute to get myself back together, not because of getting a ticket, not because any of those things, had to get myself together because of the pain of what I just literally went through. Talking to you any kind of way, trying to incite you so they can hit you, pulling you out the car for no reason, trying to go through every single thing to incite you. And now when you get home, you have the other one, the third one, the fear of being vulnerable. Yes, you have the fear of being vulnerable. Um, why? Why you have a fear of being vulnerable? Because it's been told to everybody else that you bad already. So why should I become vulnerable in how I feel in this state? Now I hear some people like, oh, you gotta be vulnerable. Oh, if you're married or you got a girlfriend or a significant other or a friend, you gotta be vulnerable. Yeah, all right, whatever, yo. Stop it. As a black man, we are scared even to be vulnerable. Because when you become vulnerable and you start saying stuff, there are people sometimes that just start saying, well, why did you do that? Well, why did you do that? Well, why you didn't do this? And why you didn't do that? You should have did this. And now they be just pushing you back down like you're slow, like you're just something. No. What happened to the being there and allowing that black man to be vulnerable, to literally work on their mental health? We're not there. See, we want to just push it. Or what about them being vulnerable so they can have a peaceful, prosperous relationship, a loving relationship? No, we're not looking for that, because the black man, according to what society has said, with the historical trauma, now we can't allow you to be vulnerable and literally be the best that you can, because we want you to stay into this certain bubble. Black men cry. And when you see a strong black man crying, you have to check those tears, because sometimes it just may be the pain of what they have been through for so long that nobody took the time to check on them. Now, there you are, like everything else, you have exceptions to the rules and all of that stuff. But the pain, right? Let me just keep it all the way 100. I'm gonna give you guys something else. And you look at all of this from the social to the historical to the vulnerability, right? You look at what Trump has done in all of these different counts that he's been convicted of, and all of that stuff, all of the foolishness, all of the stuff that's out of order, all of the stuff of bucking the system, all of everything he's done wrong, all of that. And people are still donating hundreds of millions of dollars for him to be president again. And he's already told everybody. What is that? The hotel in D.C., there was an old post office that they had to go through this particular office to get signed off on, right? And that is basically a violation, that presidents can't do that. Well, guess what he did? He did it anyway. And now you have all of these foreign countries coming in to stay at his hotel, or just buy a floor and stay at his hotel. Well, obviously they sold it by now because he couldn't keep the rent. But that all being said, he still did it. Now let me that's one. Let me give you another one. President Obama, if he, in that same state, if he would have did something like that, think about the power of the media and what they have done. He wore a tan suit for Easter. And it was a big controversy. Listen to what I'm saying. He wore a tan suit. President Obama wore a tan suit, and it was a horrific controversy. You look at it, prior to him, President Bush wore a tan suit, and President Clinton, and so it was nowhere near that. President Obama wore a tan suit, and it was like the whole world came to an end because he wore a tan suit. Now, some people may say, well, Stanley, you're on your black man soapbox today. No, I'm pointing out truths. Trump got arrested for a gazillion things, right? and people are nowhere near up in arms with him. President Obama wore a tan suit, and it was like they wanted to kick him out of the presidency. They wanted to impeach him because he wore a tan suit. Get real. So what I'm sharing with everybody is you can't be vulnerable even when you go home, because if you don't even have the capacity to be vulnerable at that state because everybody's trying to get you to be a certain things, that's added even more pressure to that plate. One of the things I'm fortunate enough to share with people that I've been blessed to mentor, to coach, to talk to train, to converse with, all of that other good stuff is this point here. When you're conversing with somebody, make sure you converse with somebody that can handle your weight. Here's what I mean. I'm not talking about your physical weight, but the things that you're going to come to the table with. See, when a true black man, I don't say true, that makes it sound like everybody else not true. That's not it. But when a black man comes to the table and they begin to become vulnerable, right? Because the world have taught them not to be vulnerable. But when that black man comes to the table and be vulnerable, the last thing a black man wants to hear is for somebody to be like, oh, now you like a mama's boy, you crying. Why are you doing all of that crying? Stop all of that crying. Gotta stop. Stop it. That's not it. Why can't black men be vulnerable? Hey, I'm crying today. I'm hurting. And then you hear all kind of things come out. Oh, stop being a punk. Just suck it up. Yo, you just act in a certain way. Oh, it's going to be all right. Stop crying. Why are you crying? In the world, let that man be vulnerable. All right? Black men do cry. We really do cry. And then you have the emotional responses, right? Because sometimes, just how they feeling. They may have some sadness, some grief, some frustration, some disbelief. Can't believe how somebody's treating them. All of those things will create an environment for that black man to cry. So I wanted to share these four things. And the reason I wanted to share them in this light and be so direct with it is because I believe not just society and historical and being vulnerable and emotional, not just that, but stop looking at the black man as something that's not human. Again, all of that has been taught. Black men cry because we have feelings. We have, there's pains that we go through that actually hurt, that literally hurt us. But why can't we express ourselves? Why can't we when others can? It's a double-edged sword. It's like two games are being played. I've had a lot of times where my dad would share with me, I have to be twice as good as the white guy. Why? We both playing, but because it's a white guy and he's close to you, they're going to play him before they play you. Oh man, I can keep going on with this thing. And now you're looking at yourself as a second class citizen. I'm not a second class citizen. I'm a king. We walk in that power. We don't discriminate. We're not beating somebody down. We're not telling them what they can and can't do. We're not saying any of that stuff. But see, a lot of times people think when you're proud of yourself, you're being conceited. When you're telling the truth, you're being conceited and you're being more than, and look at you boasting about yourself. Well, last I checked, Barry Bonds was the home run king. Can't nobody take that away from him. He's the home run king, right? He hit the most home runs. And most people are like, oh, well, he was on steroids. Oh, well, he was this. Oh, well, he was that. And I always ask the question, how many um, how many steroid tests did Barry Bonds fail? And everybody, oh, he didn't, well, his trainer, all the evidence the evidence for every single thing, he did not fail a steroid test. But yet, one of the greatest, if not the greatest let me rephrase that. One of the greatest hitters of all time and the greatest home run hitter of all times, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame. Y'all help me understand that philosophy. Other than, oh no, 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 he can't be in the Hall of Fame because we just know he was on steroids. Prove it. Prove it. And if you can't prove it, stop saying that. Oh, well, I'm not going to vote for him. Well, that goes into a whole other thing. Now, you cannot have the greatest home run hitter not in the Hall of Fame. It is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I love baseball, right? That goes into, again, the same thing. I can hear the arguments, the arguments, the arguments. I don't care. I'm tone deaf to y'all with this one and that. I don't care. So, in conclusion, my ask today is for everybody to literally love on a black man, not something sexually, not going to all of these other crazy things. I'm talking about treating them equally, not looking at them as a threat, just allowing them to be an actual human being. And you'll be surprised of how great they are to you as a friend, right? Try that, regardless of where you are in the world. Try that, and you'll see. But I'm telling you guys, we have to do better when it comes to black men. We have to. That's including black females, white females, Asian females, black Hispanics, everybody. We have to do better than anything else. All right. So listen, I appreciate you guys logging in today. Thank you guys so much. I know this was a heavy topic, but we gotta talk about it, family. We gotta get this out. We got to literally start becoming better in humanity. You look at what's going on around the world, and all kind of things are jumping out. We have to do better. We will do better. We shall do better. And because of not just my podcast, but because of the greatness of the family that's out there in the Let's Talk land, I thank you guys for being such inspirations to me. I thank you guys for being such powerful individuals for your communities and doing the things that you do. And to all of our black men, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for continuously being the great vessels that you are, regardless of where you are around the world. That being said, we'll see you guys next week, family, on Let's Talk with Stanley Doucette. Don't forget, please go to all of our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as the YouTube channel. All right. I love you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like to all of your friends. That being said, God bless, and I'll see you guys on the beaches of the world. We out. Peace.